Hello everyone, this is the Seeker of Grace. Bridget has resolved to create a series of fighting game tutorials which are tailored to casual players, and this is the first title in the series. I am supportive of this idea, but she has also requested for my help in this matter. Specifically, she has asked me to read the script prepared for this tutorial in what she calls my animated comedian voice. I am not sure what her motivations are, but I will relent this time. I have studied the script and, for ease of reading, have made some changes to it with Bridget's approval. Hopefully, my paraphrasing of fighting game jargon does not dilute the message or change its meaning. To Bridget, I hope you appreciate the time and effort I have spent to assist you. To everyone else, please click on the like and subscribe buttons if you find this video helpful. Now, please excuse me while I change my stats. Alright, here goes. So, you want to try playing a fighting game. Perhaps it's because it's a new title in your favorite series. Or perhaps it's because you saw someone performing some fancy move. Or perhaps it's because your friend persuaded you to play with them. Regardless of your reason, I bid you welcome to fighting games. I am sure the fighting game community would be happy to have you join them. But there's a problem. You have heard all the rumors. This group of people asking for your company are the very same people destroying you in games. You consult several guides for help, and they tell you that there is a lot of things to learn before you can claim to have mastered the, guess what, basics. Sure, the community will encourage you, quoting that same old adage every time, practice makes perfect. But they don't realize that 15 minutes is all the time you have to spare for the day. And of course, that is on a regular day when you're not particularly busy. You consider these scenarios, and you are terrified. Maybe I should just stop playing. Fighting games aren't meant for a casual player like me. If those are your concerns, then allow me to reassure you. You are overthinking things. Well, mostly overthinking. Fighting games can be pure, mindless fun, and each game ends very quickly, making it a great genre for casual players. The seasoned veterans that you cannot seem to stop encountering are simply the results of people adding layers of sophistication to the game in the hopes of making it more competitive. Why do they have to go and make things so complicated, right? But let's refrain from finger pointing. Let's allow the veterans to enjoy the game in their own way. As for the casual players, this series of guides is intended to incentivize you to stay committed to fighting games at least a little longer, and to provide you with some shortcuts that would hopefully help you win more games with minimal effort. The majority of respondents indicated that they would choose to learn how to play traditional two-dimensional fighting games over other subgenres. Hence, this series will use examples from Granblue Fantasy Versus, as well as the newly released Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising, to make these guides more relevant in learning your subgenre of interest. For this, our first guide, we shall look at a healthy mindset to adopt to make fighting games less intimidating for you. I have identified 3 main points for this topic. I will talk about the preceding point in detail before moving on to the succeeding one, but remember that you are always free to choose whichever section of this guide you wish to listen to. Now then, let us begin our immersion into fighting games. Point number 1. The tutorials are good, but you don't have to study everything. Many newer fighting games have dedicated tutorials to explain the unique systems present in the fighting game of interest, and more importantly, to teach new players what to expect in a fighting game and what to do. Most of these tutorials are comprehensive, no doubt, but that also makes them time-consuming. So, how do you resolve this problem? Well, isn't your goal to just enjoy the game? Then let me assure you that you can play games and have a fun time doing so without having to learn everything in the tutorial. At this point, the seasoned players might lecture you, saying, if you want to play fighting games properly, then you must learn your fundamentals, which is just a fancy term for basics. But never mind that. It may be true that you gain a deeper appreciation for fighting games if you learn and understand all its intricacies, but that takes too much time and effort. So, what is my suggestion? I say, find the balance that you are most comfortable with. Maybe you do not know anything about fighting games and wish to understand the rules. Maybe you are serious about it and want to learn all the tricks you possibly can. Or maybe all you want to do is hit things. Surely you don't need a tutorial for that, right? Learn something, everything, or nothing at all. Anyone can enjoy a fighting game, and you're free to enjoy it however you like. Here's where you might ask me, what lessons should I choose to learn? This might take a bit of effort on your part, but try watching a match between two players, or even better, the one that piqued your interest in fighting games, and make a mental note of what you enjoyed seeing in that match. Maybe it was the fancy attacks with their fancy animations. Maybe it was how they dodged every single attack flawlessly. Or maybe it was how they exploited a gimmick to overwhelm their opponent. Then browse through the tutorial's sample animations and identify which lessons cover the topic you're interested in. Better still, seek the help of an experienced player, point out that part of the match which you enjoyed, and tell them, this is what I want you to teach me. I'm sure they would be happy to oblige. After all, the community is passionate about spreading the joys of fighting games, and would desire nothing more than to see more people develop an interest in them, and hopefully you, in turn, would not feel so intimidated by them. Well, if anything is certain, it is that the fighting game tutorials will no longer scare you. Point number 2. Every fighting game character falls into an archetype, but you don't have to adhere to it strictly. Something you might immediately notice when you start playing a fighting game is that there is a list of characters to choose from, and it comes as no surprise that different characters have different fighting styles. These are what seasoned players would commonly refer to as character archetypes. They will tell you that your character's archetype will heavily influence the way you approach the game, and they too will generally adapt their fighting style to play to their character's strengths. Of course, given how vast each character's list of moves is, you might find another way to use the character, one that might even deviate greatly from their proposed archetype. And what should you do in such a situation? I say, go for it. Seasoned players might frown at a strategy which deviates heavily from a character's archetype, commenting on how that might be considered suboptimal gameplay. But trust me, at lower skill levels, any strategy or fighting style is viable, and the best strategy to use is the one that you are most comfortable with. Let us consider an example. You choose Gran as your character. You are told that Gran is a mid-dispenser who excels in strike throw pressure, and that his goal is to rush the opponent down after landing a clean confirm into a hard knockdown. If you did not understand any of that, don't worry, it is just fighting game jargon, which you can set aside until you decide to become a more serious player. Basically, they are suggesting that, while using Gran, you should first aim to knock your opponent down and then press the attack. But if you're not comfortable with fighting aggressively, you will struggle to follow their advice. You start practicing on your own and discover, to your delight, that Gran has a fireball attack as well as a flying sword move which magically makes you untouchable. And from there, you create a strategy that works for you. Of course, there may be characters who are more proficient at a certain fighting style than others. For instance, Catalina fights similarly to Gran, but she is more defense-oriented, making her a better choice for this fireball strategy. So, what should you do? I suggest that you pick your favorite character and commit to a fighting style of your preference, all while trying out other characters and leaving your options open. But never let any seasoned player tell you how your character should be used. Point number 3. You probably will lose many games, but do not let that stop you from having fun. The rumor that the fighting game community is full of experienced players is true. Hence, unless there is a large number of new players, you will find yourself encountering these seasoned players very often. And when you do, they will utterly destroy you in games. This is the harsh reality of the fighting game scene. The casual players stop playing the game relatively quickly, leaving nothing but seasoned veterans in the community. These veterans, in turn, act as a sort of barrier of entry for new players by constantly winning games against these newer players and hence demoralizing them. I cannot claim to understand the discouragement you feel. Well, maybe not you, Bridget, but I can. But if you were to ask me, should I stop playing fighting games to spare myself the discouragement? My answer is absolutely not. As mentioned in the introduction, fighting games have many traits which would appeal to casuals. You aren't going to let those veterans, who simply cannot take it easy, ruin your day, are you? There are so many things in fighting games which you can look forward to, from the amazing animations, to the cool combos, to the charismatic characters.
You gotta believe!
Of course, I will not deny that winning makes you feel good, but try to find something else inside fighting games. Something that excites or attracts you, and you can have a fun time, win or lose. Perhaps this is where I can share my own experience. Admittedly, I don't know at least half of what I'm reading here, but some time ago, I entered the world of Guilty Gear Strive to pit my skills against the warriors of that world, and what a thrill it was to be able to flaunt my powers. Corpse Piler, Bloodhound Step, and the most exhilarating of them all was going into a frenzy and performing Transient Moonlight, even when Bridget insisted that I stopped doing that, and even when it affected my mental health. I had so much fun. Sure, Bridget trounces me in every duel, but I still feel a sense of fulfillment when I use my unique powers to great effect. And Bridget, if you ever happen to listen to this testimony, I ask that you refrain from laughing at me. So, have you found what you enjoy about fighting games? Give it a try and see what you like. And those are my 3 points. Hopefully, with a little change in perspective, you can thoroughly enjoy fighting games and not be scared off by these rumors anymore. After all, fighting games are about having fun while keeping it courteous. And that concludes this guide. Oh, am I exhausted from all this smiling and talking. But that aside, thank you very much for listening to me this whole time. Take note that this series of guides is intended to help casual players enjoy fighting games more. But if you, the casual player, should decide to make a serious commitment to fighting games, then let me assure you that there are many guides created by experienced players which would certainly be of help to you. But until then, you have Bridget, and probably me on narration, to hold you by your hand as you step into the world of fighting games. And if you find this video helpful, and look forward to more guides from Bridget, then click on the like and subscribe buttons. Thank you for watching, and grace be with you. Alright, I need to switch back to my previous stats. Give me a moment. That was so tiring. I deserve some rest. Please like and subscribe. Alright, thank you, goodbye. Oh, and grace be with you.